Welcome. We will go ahead and get started, and we will call on our wonderful Register of Deeds, Kelly, to do the invocation for us.
Good morning, everyone. If you guys will bow your head and pray with me this morning. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning and we give you thanks and praise for all the blessings that you bestow upon us. Lord, we do not know what the day may bring, but we know who brings the day, and for that we are thankful. Lord, thank you for this county. Thank you for our country. Thank you for our families and our friends. Lord, please help us make good decisions. Please help us to be good people, and please help us to do all things to your glory. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Kelly. Robin's going to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I have not seen any corrections to the agenda floating around here this morning, so we'll take a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Ms. Finney, do I have a second? Mr. Reniger, any other discussion? All in favor? Okay. All right. Brian, I'll let you lead the proceedings here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple days ago, Vice Chair Finney and I had a conversation with some of the other local governments here in Davie County, and looks like our first presenter is making his rounds to each one, and there were probably some good thoughts that we felt like we should have NCDOT come in and talk about some plans and some future going-ons that they may have, and then also you guys may have some questions. So presenting today is John Ryan with Division 9. So I'm going to turn it over to John. He's going to work some technology magic here. His presentation is anything with DOT is usually a big file, so they're going to take a second to plug that in.
All right, y'all don't want my email, neither do I. I'll close that out so we don't get interrupted. Always a challenge with technology.
And while he's doing that, I'll just go on the record to say I know you guys get a lot of questions about development that doesn't always occur within our control and jurisdiction. Same thing with roads. As I always remind people, counties don't do roads, but I know you guys get a lot of questions about what is going on and what is planned to happen in Davie County. So, John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Somebody put a little note up here. Hold the podium, no pacing. You got this. I appreciate whoever did that. As many of these as I do, you still get those jitters. Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is John Ryan. I am the division engineer for the Department of Transportation here in Division 9. A little bit about myself. I took over the reins from Pat Ivey in January. Y'all probably all knew Pat. He led the division for going on 24 years. So I really enjoyed working for Pat, trying to pick up those reins and keep everything moving. I had a short drive this morning, about 10 minutes off Farmington Road, so that was appreciated, local Davie Countyan. But here today to give you just a brief presentation on kind of the goings-on of NCDOT and what all's going on in Davie County in particular. Happy to answer any questions you got. Interrupt me as you feel appropriate. If I don't know the answer, I'll shoot you an email later today. So we'll jump into it. Agenda, overview of the department, current projects, upcoming projects, the process of future projects, funding, and future issues, or what keeps me up at night. A brief overview of the department. Communications likes for us to stick this in there. It speaks to the breadth of the department, involved in airports, roads, ferries, trains, DMV, you name it. In the center there, I'd focus your attention on that 80,000 miles. North Carolina maintains 80,000 miles of roads. The second largest network in the nation, right behind Texas. We argue with Texas each year about who's got more roads. 23 ferries, the second largest ferry network in the nation as well. So a lot going on. The department is broken into 14 divisions. Those divisions, Murphy to Manteo, you can see how they're broken up there. The number of counties varies depending on the division. The number of road miles is pretty constant. Each division maintains around 5,000 miles of road. So you can see the more remote areas, more counties in there. The more urban areas are a little bit more compact, a little denser. Division 9 is made up of 5 counties: Stokes, Forsyth, Davie, Davison, and Rowan. Around 800,000 people, again, around 5,000 miles, 836 bridges, and around 430 permanent employees, running around a 13% vacancy rate as of yesterday. If you know anybody looking for a job, send them my way. Each division is broken into 3 segments. We have our project development group, which takes an idea, molds that, goes through all the environmental process, the scoping, the public hearings, does the design work, and eventually comes up with a contract that we let out to contract, awards that contract, turns it over to our construction department. Our construction department works with that awarded contractor, those contract documents, and ensures that the contractor builds what we had envisioned, what the public had envisioned, and that it's quality when it's done. Once it's done, they turn it over to our maintenance and operations folks, and as you can imagine, those folks maintain it forever. That group's broken up into many pieces. Roadway maintenance, there's a roadway maintenance in each office. Y'all have one out beside the prison there on prison camp. They changed the name of it. It's not prison camp right anymore. West Side Drive. They changed the name when I was out there. It's been a while. But that group maintains our roadway network, bridges, traffic lights, you name it. Davie County, y'all probably know this better than I do, 45,000 people or so, 549 roads, 57 bridges, and 19 permanent employees out there at West Side Drive. Jumping into current projects, there are a couple current projects in Davie. The first one is bridge number 76 on Pine Brook School Road over I-40. If you've driven I-40 recently, you've seen all the goings on right there. That project was let in February. The contract allowed the contractor to close Pine Brook School Road as soon as school ended for the year when the buses quit running, and they did it. The next day they were out there and closed the road and started tearing that bridge down. In about 3 or 4 weeks, they had that bridge gone, and since then they've been bringing it back up out of the ground. The concrete indent on the south side is in place. They've pulled some of that formwork off. They've got the concrete columns in the center coming up out of the ground. They're working on that. They're about 27% through that project, completion of January 27. I hope they beat that date. I'd love for them to open it in August of 26, but that's probably pushing it. That'd be great for school and the bus system there and the parents. But kind of takes what it takes. Pouring all that concrete and getting everything right. The contractor is Smith Rowe out of Mount Airy. Prominent contractors, got several things going on in the area. The bid for that was $4 million. The next one, another bridge project. This is over on Beecham Road on the east end of the county there over Bailey Creek. It was let August of 25, progress 22%. And I'll add this note, those progress numbers are based off dollars we've spent, not necessarily progress that you see visually in the field. So if they're doing something really expensive to begin with, that number jumps up. If they're doing cheap stuff, demolition, in the beginning, that number lags a little bit. So it's not exactly linear. Completion of April of 26 will be done with that one in the spring. Shorter bridge. Not as impactful. Again, Smith Rowe, same contractor, and a bid of $1 million for that one. Those are the 2 major projects going on in the county at the time. One thing that is always going on is our resurfacing program. Every year we let a contract, either in the fall or the spring, for resurfacing in all 5 of our counties, as well as our pavement preservation, our AST, tar and gravel programs. Generally, we spend in the neighborhood of $4 million, $3 to $4 million in resurfacing in Davie County, and another $500,000 or so in pavement preservation. Currently, the last year or so, resurfacing costs are in the neighborhood of $250,000 to $300,000 a mile. So you can imagine, even at $4 or $5 million, we don't get a whole lot of miles, 10 miles, 12 miles, depending on exactly what you're doing, how wide the road is. AST, on the other hand, is around $35,000 a mile. So we get a little bit more bang for our buck there. Those funds, that work is focused on our secondary network with 1,000 cars or less generally. That pavement treatment holds up well in that range. Talking about upcoming projects, Baltimore Road is our first one here on the list. Coincidentally, that one opens bids this evening. So we will find out who we're dealing with and what it's going to cost. But this is the realignment of the end of Baltimore Road and 158, the extension of Baltimore Road over to I-40, and an interchange there at I-40. Been a long time in the works. Public hearings, public meetings on that were several years ago. We worked through all the environmental reviews there. There were several alignments when that project began. Worked through the environmental agencies, and this was the alignment that was permitted. Again, we'll open bids this evening in Raleigh around 2 o'clock, I believe. In the next coming days, they'll award that bid to the lowest bidder. Completion is December of 2029. A bridge crossing the interstate like that in a new alignment there takes a little while to put in place. There's a lot of environmental issues out there near the interstate. I think it's Smith Creek right through there. So we got to cross that, some big box culverts to build. But hopefully that will provide some relief to that eastern area of 158, 801, 158 there, and help some of that traffic get on and off the interstate a little easier. Estimated cost, $60 million, big project. About 3 o'clock this evening, we'll know exactly what that one will cost us. The next two I've got are 2 smaller bridges. The first one is Bridge 38 up on 801 over Cedar Creek. It's just west of Farmington Road, just kind of a nondescript wooden bridge there. You can see it in the picture. That one is scheduled for 2030, so it's a little ways out. It will require a detour in that area, so that'll be impactful to the Farmington area. 801 folks going east and west across the county. $865,000. The second one on there is a little closer on the timeline. Right away is in progress. This is Bridge 65 on Duke Whitaker over Bear Creek. Similar looking bridge, a little narrower, but a little single spanned across Bear Creek there. Again, right away is in progress. The bid opening is 2027. $750,000 or so there. Again, will require a detour. Next project on the list, one been talked about for a long time, still a little ways away, unfortunately. This is the widening of US 601 north of town there, north end of town, starting at Madison and going up to Cana. Started design on it several years ago. The department went through a budget crunch. They kind of shelved it while we waited out the COVID issues and funding and whatnot. And it has resurfaced. We've put it back on the list for design. There's a firm actively engaged working on it right now. They haven't made much progress yet. They've just started in the last little bit. I will tell you one thing, one change that we have identified already is on this original drawing there on Cooper Creek. We had identified a roundabout right there to provide access for those tractor trailers coming out of the truck stop to come out and get back on 601 and go south, whichever direction of 40 they wanted to go, or wherever they were headed. In recent traffic studies modeling of that roundabout, we do not feel that that will work. We feel that that's going to back up traffic. It's too close to that signal. Lots of times when we talk to developers, we talk about proximity to the signal. And if they're going to bring a large volume of traffic very close to a signal in and out, it causes problems. This is a perfect example. We don't feel that roundabout will work. So we've got them looking at some other options to maintain that island on 601. and provide egress for the tractor trailers there. Here's their latest version, and I would draw your attention up to, I think it's maybe called East Coast, is the road right above Cooper Creek there, up there where the apartments are. This drawing shows a unique solution to allowing the tractor trailers in and out. And it's a signal right there, but it allows those tractor trailers to come up and make a U-turn, a signalized U-turn, and then come back south to hit the interstate. It does work in traffic modeling. We haven't got to the point that we think this is the solution, but this is a solution. May not be what we end up with, but this is something they're looking at. Right-of-way acquisition on this is supposed to begin in 2030 with a advertisement and let in 2033. So it's still a number of years out, but we are making progress on it. Another one that has come up for funding in this last round of prioritization for the STIP, Transportation Improvement Program, is intersection 158 and 801. Another one that's been talked about for years. It is just stepping our toes into the design process here. We've had a firm looking at the traffic. You're around 11 to 12,000 cars a day on 158, and between 15 and 20 on 801 coming off the interstate. So a lot of traffic here. They're coming up with some unique ideas. We haven't settled on a design yet. One of the movements they have identified that is problematic is that westbound 158 movement coming out of Bermuda Run turning left onto 801 south. A lot of volume there, not a lot of room. So they're looking at some unique ideas there. But a little early in the process, we'll see what they come up with. We'll come out with some public hearings as we move through that process. That project itself is only funded for preliminary engineering at this point, so we're just going to work through that process. It will go back through prioritization. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So to say it's going to be built on a certain date, I can't tell you that yet. But we'll move through that prioritization process.
John, I would like to ask if you would just keep us extremely updated on that, because the idea that Mr. Barnett and I heard the other day seemed kind of crazy to us. So.
It does.
Okay, so if you'll just keep us in the loop on that one.
Yeah, and we got everybody in the end of their seats right now that you've said that. So I'll spill those beans. The idea that the engineering firm proposed was that you would not pull up to 158 and 801 and turn left. You would proceed down to Peachtree. Excuse me. You would proceed down to Peachtree, turn left, run down Peachtree, would obviously improve Peachtree, come down Peachtree to 801, and then turn right, separating that distance there. A unique idea. It's not unheard of. There is a similar design down in Huntersville, Mooresville, off 77. Very urban area, very tight, lots of constraints, and it works very well down there. When they proposed it, I was like, what? All right. I took a Saturday, loaded the family up. We went down there and ate lunch. And my wife hates this, but, I drove her around. This ain't too bad. But anyway, it is a proposal out there. It is very unique for this area. It's more of an urban solution. Will it work? Probably will. Is that the only solution? I don't know yet. We'll give them a little more time to delve into that and see what they come up with.
I will say one positive, it might help that intersection at Peachtree where people are trying to get to food line, out of food line, stuff. It may be helpful there. But
a signal would go in there as part of that design, and those two signals will be coordinated. So it'll work. Is it the right solution? I don't know yet, but we'll see. We've still got a lot of design in front of us. One thing I will say for that intersection, it's going to be very expensive and it's going to be very impactful. There's just not a lot of room to move right there. And we all know it backs up terrible, growing area. The process for future projects, prioritization, it's kind of a tongue twister there. And I wrote that kind of on purpose to kind of pause. Y'all get y'all get this phone call, y'all get this email, and everybody in the audience has this happen too. Somebody says, we need to do something about that intersection. That's terrible. We need to widen this road. We need to do whatever. And everybody calls and sends the email and thinks it happens like that. And I can just wave a magic wand, I wish. But it doesn't. There's a process for it. And I'll walk you through that kind of quickly. The department years ago heard from municipalities and counties and citizens that they wanted to input into transportation issues. And we heard that loud and clear. Planning organizations were developed across the state, whether they be rural or municipal planning organizations. There are 37 of them. And it is a forum, an opportunity for counties, municipalities, citizens to have a voice in transportation and what we build and how we plan. Davie County, the majority of Davie County is part of the Northwest Piedmont Planning Organization. They meet every month. There's a technical review group, staff, and then there's an advisory board, the voting board, the ruling board. And they talk about transportation issues, talk about projects, things of that nature, and provide input to the department. We attend all 37 of those. We've got staff that attend all those, and take input from those groups. And then next slide here is your representation and a map. That Northwest Piedmont covers the majority of Davie, Yakima, Surrey, and most of Stokes. The brown there is the Winston-Salem Transportation Planning Organization, and they cover the Bermuda Run area and the area of King. Your representation on that Northwest Piedmont group is Will Marklin and Miss Finney. So she and I get to see each other every month or two when I get to attend. But this group is tasked with providing public input to the department. Take all that citizen inquiry, all that local knowledge that you have, and tell us what are the concerns, what are the issues. With regards to projects, every 2 years, the department has a call for new projects to be considered for the STIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. And those planning organizations are critical in that. They have a voice, they have a vote. Every one of those planning organizations has a number of slots of projects that they get to submit projects, just like the department gets to submit projects. I think the Northwest got to submit maybe 15 projects.
That's right.
15 highway projects, 15 aviation, 15 pedestrian projects, and so on. So it gets to submit these projects for consideration. The department got to submit 10 projects for consideration. And then they go through a scoring process. It is a long process, a whole lot of engineering, some bureaucraticness, and it goes all into this large spreadsheet here. This spreadsheet goes on kind of indefinitely, column after column, and categorizes things such as traffic volume, accident counts, how wide is the road versus how wide should it be according to a modern standard, things of that nature. Out through there, freight volumes, just innumerous amount of things. Those are put into a matrix, a scoring system, and it comes out with a number, a data-driven number, and each project is given a number. Through this process, here's the schedule. Those projects are all in review now. There were over some 2,000 projects submitted across the state. They're getting analyzed. As you can imagine, it takes a while to analyze all those projects. That data will come back out next spring, and those planning organizations then will have the opportunity to add points, quality points I call them, to those projects to kind of boost them, to separate the ones they really want from the ones they were just considering. And the idea is at the end of all that, all those points are added up, and the projects with the highest score are funded. They're funded for construction, they're funded for PE only. It's a 10-year program. The first 5 years are construction. The last 5 years are PE only. The idea that those PE only projects during the next scoring process would move into construction projects. But that is how that intersection that everybody talks about and identifies needing something eventually turns into a project through this process. It's not the only process. We also have safety funds. If we identify a high accident location, we can address it with safety funds. We don't have the pot of money in safety funds that this does. This is millions of dollars, or billions of dollars, really. in that 2-year cycle, it's 3 categories: statewide, which is your interstates, that's where the Baltimore Road got picked up. Regional, which are your primary roads, 158, 801, 64, 66, 65, 21 in your neighboring areas, those type roads. Those projects are grouped together and those compete regionally. And then we have division projects, which is just in Division 9. They only compete against Division 9. In Division 9 for this next cycle, we're told we'll have about $60 million. Not a lot. In the regional, we share that with Division 7, which is Greensboro, so our projects compete together. That's around $380 million as of last numbers. And statewide, I don't know that number, but that is only interstate projects. And they only compete on data. No one adds points to those. No one adds quality points to those. But to kind of give you a sense of how that works. So while it may be a great project, it may not score well compared to other projects. So it may sit on that list for several years before it gets picked up, unfortunately. I know that was a lot. Okay, transportation funding. We'll go through this real quick. 2 sources of funding for the department. It's all gas tax related or vehicle related. State funding, 73% of our overall budget is state funded. 27% is federally funded. The majority of that, as you can see, is gas tax, whether it's state gas tax or federal gas tax. All your DMV fees, registrations, things of that nature are in that state funding chain. In 2023, the legislature made a change, first change in a long time to that funding scheme, and added 6% of sales tax related to car items comes back to the department now. Tires, you go buy a set of tires, you buy oil filter, windshield wipers, basically your O'Reilly advanced auto part trips on Saturdays. We get 6% of that goes back into the department. Inside the department, funds are divided into 2 categories: the highway fund, which funds maintenance and operations, and the highway trust fund, which totally funds those STIP projects, those capital projects that we were talking about. There is a new revenue source that is not in this slide. I haven't added it yet. In July of this year, they made one more change in legislation, and we get 1% of ride share fees. So when you order a Uber, a Lyft, a taxi, and you pay whatever, that $15, $20 for that ride, we get 1% of that back into this. Exactly where it goes, I don't know. I haven't been read into those details yet. That is our funding. The things that keep me up at night.
One question here, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Where do the electric vehicles fall in this category?
Into funding or keep me up at night? Both?
Both.
Yeah, okay. Electric vehicles is first on that list to keep me up at night. When electric vehicles first came out, the worry from our industry was they don't pay a gas tax, so they're not contributing to maintaining the roadway network. And it ran that way for several years. A lot of people in the industry, kind of rallied that cry, and the legislature's heard us. In North Carolina, they increased their registration fee to offset what they would typically pay in gas tax. So now, if you drive an electric vehicle, you are contributing, just like any other gas car, to the highway fund. That registration every year is very high. What it is, I can't tell you, but I imagine it's $1,000, something like that. The other issue for electric vehicles is an electric vehicle is very heavy. A Tesla weighs about as much as my 4-door pickup truck. So it is not the same deterioration rate on that subdivision street as it was when it was a 2-valve Camry running up and down. If the entire, or 50% or whatever the feds were talking about, if 50% of the fleet was to be turned over to electrics, at some point in time it would have a much greater impact on the deterioration of our pavements. Just something we got to keep in mind. Autonomous vehicles, if you pay much attention to the tech news, there's a lot of industries, a lot of universities out there working on autonomous vehicles. You hop in and say, hey, take me to Food Line, and no hands, it takes you to Food Line. Those vehicles are reliant on lots of sensors, lots of cameras. They're scanning the entire time they're driving, they're scanning. They're looking for stripes on the road, they're looking for signs, they're looking shoulders, vegetation, the topography, all those things. As they become more prevalent, and it's going to put more of a burden, more emphasis on the stripes on our roadway, on our signs, and we're going to have to do a better job of maintaining those. That's something we're not funded for right now. You know, we're funded to replace the lines on the road every X years. That's not going to meet it for those autonomous vehicles. The department works very closely with the universities in the state. A&T and Charlotte both have big programs working in autonomous vehicles, and our folks are talking to try to understand what they're looking for. As they go out and test these vehicles on the road, they kind of get feedback and they realize that, ooh, that road didn't work so well. Well, what's different about that road? And we can work that back in to our maintenance cycles. So as those become more prevalent, we're going to have to adjust how we do things. Sustainable transportation funding. This is the big one. We should lead with this one, really. It's not so much about electric vehicles and that so much as in 1980 when you bought a car, you were okay with 8 miles to the gallon or 10 miles to the gallon. You didn't think about it much. But now you go buy a car, you won't buy a car 8 miles to the gallon if that's what it gets. You're looking for 30 or better. Well, every time that gas mileage rate goes up, you get a better deal on the car. I get less revenue coming in for every mile. But you're still doing the same amount of damage as you drive across the roadway. I still need the same number of lanes, but you're putting less into the pot. So as mechanical combustion engines get better, we put turbos on them, we do hybrids, whatever we do, we're going to continue to increase that miles per gallon when you go buy that new car. That's what you're going to be shopping for. And our revenue source is going to continue to keep going down. The legislature has to come up with another way of funding the Department of Transportation. And there are states all across the nation that are looking at different ways to do that. Is that vehicle miles traveled? You know, a lot of controversy over that. Lots of people don't want you to know how many miles I drive. I hate to tell you, when you do your safety inspection, they write down your mileage already. So it's already out there. It's just how we manage to collect that revenue. Inflation, over the last 4 years, 2024 to 2020, inflation, everywhere across the nation, inflation went up. For construction, it went up 67%. When you funded a project in 2020, you did not have 67% inflation built into those cost escalation formulas. So that has really hammered that TIP program. What we had planned in 2020, we can't afford to build now. We've got to delay it. So that's why you see some of those timelines being pushed out. Future transportation needs. These are those projects that we identify. We need to improve that intersection. But through our process, it doesn't quite score well enough. There's not enough funds in that pot to fund all those projects. And then the last one up here, Western North Carolina rebuild. If you've went to Western North Carolina after the hurricane, you kind of saw the devastation. It's kind of mind-numbing, things you couldn't imagine. 10-foot wide creek, is washed out to, 50 yards wide, boulders strewn everywhere. And yeah, there's a little creek in the middle of it. But nothing in that 50 yards is rebuildable. It just removed all the topsoil, and you just got boulders and bedrock. It's amazing. And there was a road right beside the creek, and it's gone. The Western North Carolina rebuild for transportation is $4 billion, the estimate. We've already spent $1 billion, and we're just getting started. Where does all that money come from? Declared federal disaster between FEMA, FHWA, they will reimburse 80%. Rough math, 20% of $4 billion. We're still on the hook for $1 billion. A year ago, there was nobody squirreling away $1 billion to pay for all that. We had the regular program going full steam. So where do you come up with $1 billion? You got to cut other programs back. You got to delay projects. So that's going to have a big impact on the department for several years to come. We've made a commitment, but we're letting contracts every day to rebuild western North Carolina. So it will get rebuilt. It's just gonna take some time. All right, that's everything I got. What questions do y'all have?
I don't have a question, but I have a couple comments I'd like to make. I think one of the best things that you guys have done in the past few years, and I just came through Huntersville last weekend, and it looked like it would be very confusing, but once you got into it, y'all have done a wonderful job of putting signs down on the road that tell you what lane you need to be in well before you reach that intersection. The same over here at Tanglewood with the 158 signs in the road.
Yep.
One of the best things you've ever done, and would encourage that anywhere.
Okay, glad to hear it. That's something new in the last several years.
And I'd just like to take the opportunity to say thank you to you and to Pat Ivy for all you guys do for Davie County.
Thank you. Glad to do it.
Others? Terry?
Quick question. On Western North Carolina, understanding that's a kind of a moving target, do y'all have an end date for that to spend the $4 billion?
I don't have it right offhand. It's about 2028, I think.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Question, how does it work for the funding mechanism for like tractor trailers? Because, they create a lot of damage. However, to be fair to that industry, the gas they spend probably produces a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
But like with regard to the registration and stuff, is that, something there that's a higher impact? Because I hear that complaint a lot, but you got to try to balance it out as what's.
Yeah, they keep our grocery store filled, so we don't want to complain too much, absolutely. The registration fees on commercial vehicles are much higher to offset that damage they do to the pavement. And we've got our DMV enforcement officers out there that are to regulate the amount they carry, so they're not doing undue damage to the roadway. It is taken into account in their registration fees.
John, I just want to thank you because you are always so responsive. If I send you an email, I ask you a question, even the slightest little anything, I know you're really busy, but you're always quick to get an answer, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We try.
Any others?
I'll make one real quick comment. I appreciate what you do, and I've taken a couple major road trips recently, and I drive a lot up in Virginia also in general, but I think what we've got, there's the issues as we adapt to the population, but I feel pretty good about what I see here versus what I saw when I went across the country.
I appreciate that. I see the same thing.
Others? Okay, thanks, John. Appreciate all y'all do. And Summer, I guess you're on. Soon as John's out of the way, head this way.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I am here to talk about our annual impact report, which is a part of our opioid settlement. It is a requirement for all North Carolina counties who are receiving opioid settlement funding to do an annual impact report, which also includes the financial aspect. But my sole job is to handle the annual impact report, and I'm very lucky to get to work with the Sheriff's Department and also EMS to collect all this data based off of the impact that our program creates on our county. So that is the why I'm here to talk to you about that. And one of the big things that I wanted to send home today is that you are going to get to see an actual participant story. We had our annual opioid summit back in June of this year, and every office in this county who works in this collaboration of the Community Response Task Force had a part in this person's recovery. And honestly, being a classmate of this person, it is beautiful to watch something work the way that we put so much energy into these programs and actually see its success. So I'm super excited to share that with you. And then Greg and I will go over the actual numbers of this. So I will get that started. My drug use started about the end of my year at South Davie Middle School, going into my year at Davie County High School, where I was skipping class a lot. I remained experimenting with drugs like marijuana and pain pills. I was missing so much school that the justice system got involved. They ended up taking me from my mom's and they placed me at my dad's, which we either argued or got along perfect, but mostly we just didn't get along at all. There was quite a lot of drinking involved. I ended up going to school drunk on a fifth of Dragonberry Bacardi and getting kicked out. Since I was no longer in school, I had the choice to return to my mom's. I continued to do whatever I wanted to though, because my mom, she worked really long hours every day. Led me to just getting into different things, experimenting with more stuff. I also found out that I had PCOS and was in and out of the hospital where they were giving me more pain medicine. So it was easy for me to get pain pills, and I kind of ran wild with that. I kept using them more than I was supposed to, so therefore I was needing something else to cope with the effects of how I felt when I didn't have them, and that's what led me to go towards something stronger, which was heroin and fentanyl. And this led me into a lot of different things, in and out of the courthouse, where I was constantly in trouble with the law for different things because I just continued to get these drugs. And me being young like I was and on drugs, I couldn't keep a job. Therefore, I was having to do things, promiscuous things that I was not happy or proud of, but I did them to be able to get what I needed. This led to me getting pregnant with a little girl, and this completely turned my world upside down. And I thought it was upside down before, but it's just flipped it around again. I really started to want to change my life, but I didn't know how. I was pregnant and still using, still struggling with everyday life. Court system ended up actually putting me on house arrest. The doctor put me on complete bed rest. What was I doing? I was still getting high and doing drugs. Why? It's just because the drugs were so strong and I didn't know how to get away from what I was doing. I had a lot of people trying to help me and wanting better for me, but the drugs had a hold of me so much that I didn't know how to get away from them. Davie County Social Services got involved, and whenever I gave birth to my daughter, she was positive for fentanyl, and this is what caused them to get involved. And I got to actually stay with her about a week in the hospital, and then Davie County Social Services came and had me leave the hospital, and I could not take her with me. But it was all for good reason. I was not safe to be around my daughter. I was not using anymore, but I had been using up until the day I was in labor with her, so there was no
going back and like trying to argue the fact that they needed to take her from me because they did the right thing and they did need to take her from me. I wouldn't have trusted myself around her how I was. So I just really want to thank them for coming and rescuing her and making sure she was safe and helping me just be able to want to get clean even more. And this is what led me to look for rehab, and I applied to all kinds of different rehabs just to be turned down or be told, since I was already clean for 2 months, that I couldn't come to their rehab because I was too clean, or nobody had beds, or just I wasn't the right fit. And then I came across this place called Freedom House. They told me that if I just, made sure I did everything that they needed me to do, which was get off of the Suboxone pills that was helping me stay sober, that I could come and that my daughter would be able to come stay with me after about a month. So I kept calling and kept blowing them up day after day to tell them if I was clean or not, and if the Suboxone was out of my system yet. And finally it was, and my admission date got set to January 30th. I have now been there. That was January 30th of 2024, and I'm still there. I'm a graduate, but now I'm in aftercare, and I have my own job, my own car, and I got custody back of my beautiful baby girl, and life just keeps getting better. And I used to be really scared of the future and the unknown and not ready for what happens next, but now we have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because nothing in life has ever been comfortable.
So that is an excellent opportunity to just say we are so grateful for just this work and the support that we get from you all to be able to impact other people's lives. I know from speaking with Courtney that not only is her life greatly impacted, which is represented in these numbers in your packet that you got, but also her daughter, and the ability to know that her mom overcame something just with all the supports and everything at the right time. And that is what we strive to do every single day, is to meet people where they are and give them the right resources at the right time. So we're going to briefly go over this annual impact report. Feel free to ask us questions. So I will let Greg speak on his portion.
Good morning. I would also like to echo Summer and thank you guys for having us here today. It's the work we're very passionate about, and I know you all have a lot on your plate, a lot of departments, a lot of things, but we appreciate your support and our department heads. So Summer's got the slides up here. I'm going to kind of try to stay in order and not get too deep in the weeds because I know our time's limited. So I'm going to start with the evidence-based treatment. And first of all, I think it's beneficial just to kind of have a definition of what that means, because with the impact report, they want us to report all of these different areas. So the definition of evidence-based treatment is a treatment intervention with a scientific validation. So there's a lot of things we do that work that don't fall into this category. But we're going to start with the evidence-based treatment and just kind of briefly go through these sections. The first thing you see there are the naloxone, which is known as Narcan, probably more commonly, kits distributed. Those are 2-pack kits, so if you did the math, 168 doses of those were given out. Referrals to opiate programs, we refer to that as medical assisted treatment. We have a couple facilities you'll see under the office-based clinics. Southern Family Medicine, since they've came into the county, have been very good to work with us. We attended their open house. They've really, like anybody we've sent over there, they've accepted, got a lot of scholarship funds they can offer and that type of thing. So real good partnership there. We're also happy to share that Daymark Outpatient here in Moxville has recently started doing that medical assisted treatment, and we can do a bridge program in the field. If it happens to fall on a weekend when they're not open, we can start that at EMS, and both of those clinics will take our patients. So that's kind of exciting news. The 43 you see there is unique patients to the program, which means individual patients, and then, like I say, 30 was folks that was referred to those. So we'll move on to the next slide, which is recovery. So with recovery, everybody's recovery is different, and they're no two the same. Like Summer was saying earlier, we try to find out what works for that patient. Just like any other kind of health condition, if you go to the doctor, they're going to give you some options, and we just want to be able to support those options in their recovery and make good recommendations to them. So going through those slides, the large number you see there, the 1553, that's the number of contacts made through our CP program. And understand, somebody in recovery, especially early on, there's going to be a lot of contacts. Those first few weeks are crucial because, first of all, they're maybe even skeptical about, can I do this recovery? As we move on with those patients, it scales back the number of contacts. We may only see those contacts if we go to a support group in the county. We do attend those to support folks in recovery, but that number fluctuates. The 66 there, that's folks that's been in our safe syringe programs, got Narcan distribution, harm reduction, or any of those things that we can do to keep spreading those. Even though they may be using during that time, it's to kind of minimize that till we can get them to a place of recovery. The 52 are folks that we've got into rehab programs. Maybe they're not specified as evidence-based. We work with all kinds of programs. There's faith-based programs out there, a lot of different programs we work with. And then we have we had two staff. This last reporting cycle, we have a full-time peer support specialist, and we had a contract peer support specialist that was funded through our MAC grant. Happy to say that we did get approved for another year with that MAC contract, so we're going to be looking for another contract peer support person. The one we had, she moved on. She's doing great things, went back to school. She's working in recovery, so that's a good thing. We lost her, but we're trying to find another one. So.
I also want to clarify on the number of contacts. So that is solely with the community paramedic program. Throughout this report, we have law enforcement, so Davie County Sheriff's Office does a section, I do a section, and Greg does a section. So just to, divide and conquer, it is really, not fully representing of all the contacts that I make, all the contacts that Stephanie Davis from the jail makes. So I just wanted to make that known. And then also when it says unique participants throughout this report, that is the state saying that this person receives services in multiple areas. So we're trying not to count them multiple times. Sometimes obviously it is hard because all of us are working together, but I think it's super notable when I go to all these state conferences. They ask us how we get so good at communicating, how we have our programs connecting through, and how all the agencies talk together, and they ask us how to be more like Davie County. So I think that is a monumental accomplishment for our team, especially coming out of COVID when it was very difficult to communicate and go door to door. So I think that is something notable as well. I will go into early intervention, which is super passionate in just the sense of I love early intervention. It's something that Suzanne Wright really supports me in. Due to the fact that I am a Davie County resident, I know people. I've known a lot of people that I've worked with throughout my career at Davie County Health and Human Services. So I found the importance of prevention. Instead of just constantly doing harm reduction for people who are in active addiction, I thought it was very beneficial to focus on providing interventions before people had a full-fledged addiction to illicit drugs. So that means within our school system, a lot of people know that we have a lot of vape stores in our community, and I'm so proud to get to partner with law enforcement on regulating, facilities that sell to underage students, and getting to work with them and collaborate on what we are seeing in the underage population in general. So I get to work alongside the SROs a lot to work with students, and I get to train teachers and other admin staff to know what to recognize when someone has an addiction. I also get to run groups. I've had groups at all the middle schools, the high school, and Central Davie Academy. So with these numbers, it's a rough count just because, I go to all the schools and I get to train the teachers in what to recognize in the opioid epidemic. But I've done several orientations, freshman nights, football games. You can probably see Greg and I out and about. Halloween's coming up, so come chat with us there. So for this, I would say this has been an opportunity to provide that early intervention, to also help with the generational cycle of substance use that we have witnessed through, doing these reports for the state. We have found areas that we could improve on, and that is what we are doing with being in the school system, to provide more support for students before they start a life of addiction or go down that path, especially if it's modeled for them. I'm going to segue into the criminal justice diversion aspect of this, because through the school program with early intervention, one of our big things is recidivism. And I think it is super important to work with young people before they turn 18 to make sure that they are well aware of the consequences of their actions. That's one thing I really try to work with them on, is to talk to them about, the consequences of their actions, and also just give them the facts of, I have my opinion on what you should do, but I'm going to give you the facts of the health effects, the criminal aspects of bringing THC to school, and all those other aspects. So I'll let Greg talk about this part, but for the CJ diversion aspect, we partner so well with the SROs to make sure that our students who are justice involved get a full round of support, whether that's individual counseling through Contegra, whether that's group counseling with the SUD groups, which is substance use disorder groups that I lead, or even just getting connected in the community to other resources.
Yeah, so on the criminal justice diversion, really a lot of these, well, all these numbers are reported from Sheriff's Department, Detention Center. And first of all, I just want to say that, the Sheriff's Department's doing great work. We have a job to do on our end as folks that are needing recovery to do that. But there's also those folks that are not willing to do that, or folks bringing drugs into our county. And these guys are killing it. I think JD and his team, it's a partnership. We tell folks, we want to be the ones to work with you, not them. Yeah. So, but both parts are necessary. And I feel like we've just got a great working relationship with our Sheriff's Department, whether it be in the detention center, Ms. Davis and Dana, or the road deputies. We've got a system where they can, if we're on duty, they'll call us, and we'll come out, meet with those patients. If they end up in the detention center, Ms. Davis will call us, and we'll work out a plan. So just the working relationship is really good. I've been in emergency services in some capacity, starting as a volunteer at 18 years old, and I've never seen a time where these agencies work so good together, and I'm grateful for that. So just a couple of ways we work with the justice system as far as EMS, and that ties in. Summer told you about the SROs and how the school plays in, but so we work with the deputies, of course. Detention center, Miss Davis, who's over here, she kind of pulls those folks aside. Oftentimes it's folks we've already worked with, and they weren't ready to make a decision, and when they end up at the detention center, it looks a little bit more favorable. So that kind of leads into Jack, who works with pretrial. You know, those folks, you know, they're gonna get out. They can only keep them in the detention center so long. They're gonna come out. Jack works with us, especially our peer support person, and we can try to find a place. So instead of like going back on the streets into a drug house, what are we gonna do? What's the plan? And if we can present a good plan, help these folks, Jack's usually on board, and we can get those folks, you know, straight from the detention center into a rehab somewhere. And that's, you know, Ms. Davis, Jack, our peer support, kind of everybody playing in that role together. Another good relationship that is not county-based is our probation parole. We were working with folks, and we were getting calls like, hey, I got to be at probation in 10 minutes. Could you get us up there? Because a lot of things we do, you know, we take them to Storehouse for Jesus for food. If it can contribute to their recovery, they're working with us, we'll do it. And so we started showing up at probation parole, and first of all, they're like, who are y'all and why are the paramedics here with this person? So the more this went on, the more folks we started working with, that relationship deepened. Brad's in that office just about every day, especially on court weeks. You know, folks get out of court, and Brad will start working with them. And we'll come up with a plan with probation parole just like we do with pretrial release. And that's been a great relationship as well. So we're just very thankful for you guys and the way you support us.
Absolutely. And I will say this past school year, it was really amazing to work with a student who had a parole officer. And it was so cool to just see how we were both working on the same things as professionals with this student. And one of the activities that I did is I do a letter to our future self on a very important day. A lot of students pick their graduation day or when they graduate college or when they get their first apartment. And one of the young ladies was like, my parole officer told me that I can be a dentist if I want to. And, you know, you have really changed my life in the sense of I didn't realize that what I was doing could stop me from becoming what I want to be. And I just think all of us working together and communicating as a county has really provided all opportunities for all agencies to pour into people. And to specialize in what they do best, you know. So I'm very good in the early intervention and the public health side, and Greg is wonderful with all of his overdose responses and all of those things, and then law enforcement, helping guide people through the judicial system and just staying, you know, up to date on all of the regulations with those products that students and other people are using. So I just wanted to say that, but I also would say, as we scroll down, let me get to it. So a big aspect of our program is phone calls, as you guys know. So the impact on our program, based off of all of the all of the things we've implemented throughout the years that I've been here, have truly started to make a difference in our data. So one thing that I definitely want to talk on is the very last thing. We'll probably have to go back up for Greg, but the mental health cases and EMS substance use calls, due to the fact that we have done so much prevention, harm reduction, and advocating for people to get to treatment facilities, we are actually seeing a change in what we are seeing in our numbers because people are not overdosing like they were. Our North Carolina overdose rates have actually gone down, and our overdose rates and fatalities have gone down in Davie County, which is honestly a blessing. That is my bread and butter right there. That is everything that makes me passionate to show up to work every day, is to know that someone else can have a chance to be in recovery and actually get the resources that they need to live the life that they want. So if you will see, our numbers are actually switching to mental health now because that is the number one thing. So it's kind of like when you show up to the hospital with a heart attack, they're not gonna immediately give you insulin for your diabetes because you're having a heart attack. So that's kind of the same mentality for this last graph. Now that substance use is not killing people, their mental health is what we are trying to help, because those two go hand in hand. Because a lot of the times people use for a variety of reasons, whether it's trauma, stress, any of those things. So now it's switching to mental health instead of people actively overdosing, which honestly, I am just so grateful for, because that just gives us another opportunity to meet these people and get them the help that they need. I'll get back up for you, Greg.
Okay, so this slide here, this is just kind of an EMS slide. This wasn't in the impact report, but just some numbers we put together. So the first slide you see here is the community since we started our program, kind of the rise in calls for service that we had within our department. So you can see the increase through the years, and keep in mind, 2025 was just through the June, through the reporting year. But on the other side there, you see the 911 calls for substance use and how they have gone down. So that's, to us, that's a win. Even though we have a lot of contacts, as I said in a previous slide, a lot of those are with the same patient, multiple contacts. So yeah, that's what I've got on that one.
My last thing I wanted to say is I just wanted to say thank you so much for the opportunity to share something that is so impactful, not only to me, but the individuals in our community. We did share the extended version of Journey with you all. The other individual featured in that premiere is a Davie County resident. That was something that was very important to me when creating that video, was to represent people in our community, from our community. And actually, Kayla is Courtney's mentor. She is now the leader of the facility that helped get Courtney sober and get her daughter back. And it is beautiful to hear. Courtney also talks about, at the filming of that, we got to drive around Davie County, and she was just brought to tears. We went to the old high school, and she was like, Davie County has done so much, not only to pour into the community, but also to make our community better. And she was just like, it just breaks my heart, honestly, because she was just blown away by the fact that, we have poured so much into this, and she sees how much we care. And I just wanted to let you guys know, thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this work. And if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer.
Any questions, guys and ladies?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I just want to thank all of you, Ms. Davis, JD, your team, Kathy, and Summer, Brad. I'm just so proud of you, and I'm so thankful for you, because you all pour your hearts and souls into what you do. And we are very, very blessed to have you in these positions, and not just somebody that's just there, but somebody that's doing it from their heart and for all the right reasons. And you all know this, but I want to publicly tell you all, I'm just amazed by what you've accomplished and by the love that you're pouring out into our community, and I just thank you very much.
Appreciate the support.
Others?
I'd just like to take the opportunity to say, I know you're impacting the lives of the people who are actually using the drugs, but you're also impacting the lives of people throughout the county. Probably most of the crime that occurs in the county is committed by people on drugs. The use of our sheriff's department, misuse of our sheriff's department, excessive use of our sheriff's department, our EMS, our fire departments, everybody that has to deal with people who are addicted to drugs, you have an effect on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And families.
That's right.
That's the thing I wanted to mention, is it's good because being a former educator and having a daughter that's in education, how many of the kids that we deal with or did deal with or she deals with that have a parent that has that, how much that impacts, whether it's that or whether it's impacting the grandparents trying to raise a young kid thing. It has a exponential effect as you look at it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Others? I tell you, that one slide, Summer, where you talked about the reduction in overdoses, where people are now seeking out treatment. I mean, that to me, that's amazing. I mean, it shows that, you know, people aren't seeking solace in the drugs. Now they're making contact and at least trying to admit maybe there's issues.
Yeah.
And so.
Absolutely. And I had a meeting with the state last week, and we were talking about, you know, how our prevention has swayed our numbers differently. And I was discussing different ways that we can represent our program fully. So it doesn't look like we're doing less. It's just since we have been so good at doing the prevention and the education, you know, number one, people aren't dying as much. And number two, they're getting access to resources, community support groups, and all these other things. So our efforts are being spanned out differently, kind of like in the school system, like you were saying about the education and the impact that it has on other agencies. I think it is awesome now that, like, teachers will give me referrals, parents give me referrals, and not only do I get to hear feedback from them, I get surveys back from students that write letters about their experience and how that changed their life.
So you think early intervention is that this is really the results of getting ahead of things?
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, getting you in the school system, I think, was one of the best things too, because you're able to intervene early before they get in big trouble. And I think the numbers switching is because you are actually approaching getting to the root of the issue. You were having to treat the beginning outside effects, but now you're being able to move into the causes and work on that there at the root. So that's awesome.
Anything else? Thank you, guys. Thank you for all you do.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Cindy, budget timeline.
Good morning.
Do y'all need to get up and stretch for a second, or are we good? Okay. All righty. Well, I just wanted to take a couple minutes of your time this morning to go over what we're proposing to be the timeline for the upcoming budget, 26-27. And it's hard to believe we're talking about 26-27 and we're still in 25-26 and dealing with audit from 24-25. So Robin and I oftentimes don't know what year it is really. But so here we are today, October 21st, and we're presenting this timeline. And we've kicked off the capital CIP, and the facilities needs requests are going to be due on December 1st. So we'll be working with that, and then in January, we'll submit the draft CIP to Davenport, and then they will begin their work so we can bring it back to you soon after. But also on December 2nd, we're going to be having at the department directors meeting, we will have our kickoff with the department directors and have our discussions there, laying out the timeline, and they will begin working on some of their work for, let's just go to the next page. Okay, so the department director will be busy during February and March getting all of their information into us so we can build our base budgets and get that back to you, and then we will be working through April, trying to balance the budget, working with the departments, meeting with the departments, and we're hoping to, let me go back a slide. January 22nd is when we are hoping to have our work session with you to get your feedback on what you want to see and prioritized in the budget. And if that works for you all, we would like to plan that for January 22nd. Okay, and then in February, at the next work session, which I think we're still trying to work out that date, we would like to present what we get back from Davenport. We'd like to present that to you all for CIP. Then the first year of that CIP would be approved with the budget process in June. So, As you'll see here, there's a lot of work being done by the department directors and finance office during February, March, and April. And then in May, we would meet with the commissioners, May 4th through the 20th, meeting with you one-on-one or 2-by-2, getting your individual feedback on what we've pulled together so far. And then we're hoping to submit the manager's recommended budget by May 21st. We'll do our public hearings, our advertisement for our public hearings, and we would hope to present the manager's recommended budget on June 1st. And then you could vote on it at that date if you'd like, or if you'd like to come back at the commissioner's work session later in June to vote on the budget. And then that would give us the remainder of June to do all the work that we have to do to get it into Munis, give the department directors time to get their purchase orders in for the new year, for us to get those working. So I guess our questions for you today would be, do you have any questions about this timeline or any comments about it? And then what would be some of the suggestions you would like for the January 22nd work session? We've got listed on here the things that we've done in the past and what we did for the 25-26. If you'd like to see these same things, the Davie County Schools, the community college, revenue projections, the legislative project funding, and then updates from our departments, CIP update and public utilities update, and then anything else.
What I would like to see probably prior to the January 22nd meeting would be some level of meeting with the commissioners, either two at a time, one-on-one, whatever it might be, with Brian, Cindy, you, Robin, whoever it might be, that we can, if the commissioners have ideas, thoughts, of things that they would like to see assimilated into this year's budget, that you begin to work on that early on, so that we're not to May, and then you're seeking out commissioners' ideas and thoughts on the budget. I think prior to that 22nd meeting, maybe Brian, maybe beginning right after we get back after the first, is beginning to have me, and you may already have this in plan, to meet with commissioners so that we can present ideas. Does that make sense? You know, because every commissioner has thoughts and ideas of projects that they may want to look at, areas that they may want to see funded, and then we can then have open discussion about that at that January 22nd meeting.
Yeah, I think that's something we can easily do. We can get everybody's schedules together. Well, we can get that. That's a great idea.
I guess another question I would have would be for that January 22nd budget workshop, would you like to have it here in this room like we did last year, or do you want to have it in another setting like we have done some in the past?
Is that going to be a presentation meeting where department heads are coming in to present?
Well, that's what we did last year. We had Human Resources making a presentation, Health and Human Services, EMS, and the Sheriff's Office each made presentations last year. And you may want to do those same departments, or there may be other departments you want to choose for the next budget year. But we typically do have them talk about the progress and upcoming projects that they have.
Well, we'll let everybody get with you and Brian on that to
Okay.
kind of give their ideas. I had no problem meeting here.
Then off somewhere else.
And I think the questions you have on your screen today are not necessarily for an answer today, but will feed into the conversations that we look to schedule before January 22nd. So just some things for you to be thinking about.
Yeah, and in terms of the legislative funding stuff, they're going to go back into session.
Back into the long session. Yeah, this is the.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, we might even want to talk about that. Sometimes we let that jump on us. Mm-hmm. We might even want to start talking about that real soon. Because if they're in long session, that means they go in right after the election to swear in, and then they start talking about those issues. So if we wait till February, even really January 22nd, to discuss kind of our wish list, I call it, to the legislature, then we may be too late.
All right. Thank you.
I would just want to make a comment, and Brent may be getting ready to say the same thing, I'm sorry. So, I mean, I see the dates on here where it brings us into the discussion. I think with all of the changes in the county, the growth in the county, and I personally would like to be kept up to date or even more involved in the one-on-one discussions with the department heads. I think that sometimes the real desires and needs of the department heads is lost in the shuffle of a dollar, and sometimes their needs are more important than the dollar, and we need to figure out how to make it work. And I think we miss that, and then a lot of times we hear it after the fact or when we're in a crunch time, and this is not a reflection on you at all, Cindy. But you know, if we hear from them why they're asking for certain things, it may cause us to say, okay, we need to figure out how to do that. So I just would like to be more involved in that. Go ahead, Brent, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would like to hear from every single department, the smallest up to the largest. For me, I'd rather hear about specific needs, even dollar figures, so we can wrap our head around it instead of conceptually talking about duties and this kind of thing. I think that's where the rubber meets the road on a budget, so that's kind of what I want.
Anybody else? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cindy. Of course, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, get with Brian, get with Cindy, get with Robin. Preferably Brian, and he can filter it down. Robin?
Good morning again. So what we have before you today is, this is year-to-date September 30th, so we're 3 months into the new fiscal year, comparing to the same time period last fiscal year. We have about $1.1 million more in property tax than we did at this point last year. Again, sales tax, we won't see anything related to this fiscal year until next month, but the trend is still the same, flat to a small increase. The big change that you see in miscellaneous is just the timing of the vehicle financing. We did a little bit earlier last year than this fiscal year. Most of the expenditures are due to just timing. So right now, we are $438,000 a little less than we were last fiscal year in September. These are revenues. The bars are the current fiscal year. The yellow line is last fiscal year, and the green line is fiscal year 24. Again, property taxes, are naturally higher than they were in the last two. We'll see more data for sales tax, and the other, again, are just timing things. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Brian, pending action?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your next meeting is on November the 3rd. You did defer 2 topics from the October 6th meeting to be heard on the 3rd, including a policy amendment in recreation and parks and a rezoning of the property there on Highway 601 North. We will also be doing a brief presentation and celebration of our Silver Spirits during that meeting as well. And that's what we have on the main part of the docket for November the 3rd.
Anything, ladies and gentlemen, y'all want to discuss or add to that agenda that could help Brian at this time? Otherwise, we can flood his cell phone. All right, we're good to go. Commissioners' comments, Richard?
I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank everybody for coming out today, and thank you for the excellent job that all the county employees do. And I hope you come back next month. Thank you.
Terry?
I just appreciate everyone being here, and that was an excellent presentation. The 2 presentations we had today were great, very informative, but the opioid program, that's certainly a success story, and it's very uplifting. So thank you for all you do and your commitment to that. And again, hope to see you at the November meeting. Thank you.
Brent?
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Appreciate all the work you do. 2 good presentations. want to reiterate, really proud of what the, is it community? Yeah, community paramedic, I didn't want to call it the wrong thing, has done. I mean, that's life-changing and so impactful. So thank you for that. I hope everybody has a good rest of the week.
I have one quick question, Summer and Greg, that Brent just hit me and Benita's involved, and you don't even need to come back up. The number of programs like Celebrate Recovery. Now we're doing one down in Coolamy. We're doing them in Coolamy, Rescue House. Brad, that group that they're doing. I mean, that plays into all of that too, doesn't it? I mean, in terms of early intervention, the kinds of things that we're doing. Those are great programs too. Yeah. And just for everybody that might be listening, there's one of those going on about every night, right? Yeah, okay. All right, Benita?
So for those listening, I will tell you Celebrate Recovery is at Blaze on Tuesday, Freedom House at Rescue House on Monday, and the Bridge Church in Coolamy on Thursday. So those are the three that we're aware of the support groups, which is extremely essential in anyone maintaining their recovery process. They cannot do it by themselves. So, and also, I know on the recording it couldn't be heard, but the sheriff has helped provide transportation to those meetings, and the community paramedic folks have transported. And now Freedom Group has a van that was donated to them. So there's lots and lots of extra effort being made to get those people to those meetings, and that's really what it takes to keep them where they need to be, because when they come out of a facility, if they go back home where there's possibly other people they're using, they're right back around all of their friends and all the stressful surroundings that were putting them in those situations to begin with. They got to have somebody to keep them on track. But it's you all are you don't tell enough about what you really do, of the hours that you spend and the times when you're not even working that you answer the phone because these people call you, and the partnerships that all of you at the jail, sheriff, probation, all of the groups, Jesse Stroud, the partners group. I mean, it's really a group effort, and I just, again, I'm so appreciative of you, and I just applaud every one of you that are involved, and you're just making a big difference. You're making a lasting difference that will be felt for many, many years, and you're changing. You're helping people break the chains and break the cycles, and that's what it is really, really important. So thank you.
All right. Again, thanks, everyone. We're going to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5. Karen, did you tell me I didn't have to read all that? Okay. Thank you, Karen. I hope Mr. Vogler goes along with that. So we're going to, do I have a motion to go into closed session pursuant
moved.
to that statute? Okay. Mr. Reniger seconds, Ms. Finney did the motion. All in favor? All right, we'll take a brief break. We'll go into closed session and, all right. Do we have a motion to go back into open session?
So moved.
Mr. Poindexter, do we have a second? Mr. Schoaf, and all in favor? Okay. Anything else? A motion to adjourn? Mr. Poindexter?
Second.
Ms. Finney? All in favor? All right. Thank you, everybody.